I had my heart broken recently. Yeah. It was the kind of broken where discomfort seemed to settle itself permanently between my throat and my chest. Like something was stuck there. Like swallowing down a meal whole. Or a woman getting old. Or what I've been told a black hole to be. A cold place where time and space are crunched in together so tightly that nothing, not even light, can escape it. That kind of broken. And I could swear, when I listened to it carefully, I heard it beating quite happily, in infuriatingly the same way as always. Ba-boom, 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 impervious, detached, callous, ba-boom, 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 not paying any attention to my state of emergency. How am I supposed to fix something that's broken if it's working just the same? In hope of trying to find some kind of cure, I had to return to the place where it all began. Back before the baggage of boyfriends and heartbreaks and tears. Back before all the colored myths I'd picked up along the years. Back to the drawing board of dreams and the birth of fears. Back to once upon a time. It was a dark, windy night, cold and eerie outside, whilst inside, under thick covers tucked in tight, there's little me, aged 5. My father is pacing animatedly across loose wooden floorboards, recounting one of his many bedtime stories, and this one was my favorite. Thump, 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 when Mr. Frog's horrifying jumps up to the princess's chambers, the tremors through floorboards stretching to little 5-year-old ribs. Bang, 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 he knocked on the door and roared, "Petite princesse, petite princesse." Yes, the stories were always in French. And this little heart of mine would beat hard and fast, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Then Papa's lips would tighten, his voice lighten, and he'd say, "Oui, Monsieur le Crapaud, je suis désolé, j'ai oublié." As the princess he cooed, and the story would continue down many avenues depending on the narrator's mood, but it would always end the same way. Une princesse doit toujours garder sa promesse. A princess must always keep her promise. And so, most reluctantly, little Miss Princess swept up the slimy toad, scrunched up her nose in disgust, and kissed Mr. Frog. Lo and behold, a handsome prince was her reward. Yep, that is definitely where it all began. Ba-boom. While I lay quite still in the dark, my fancies ran. Ba-boom. Where was this dear prince? Where was he hiding? And did I really have to kiss every frog along the way to find him? Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Heavy is the weight of imagined expectations on a little girl with such forged revelations, which she would and did carry into adulthood. Like dragging a ball and chain to a party, slipping it under my designer gown when almost ready, trying to, jam my foot into a Jimmy Choo, like an ugly sister trying to impersonate Cinderella's impossibly slender foot in the hope that my dear prince might recognize his boo. And speaking of shoe, I quickly learned that red ones are taboo. As the story goes, a girl shows off her red shoes at church, na-na-na-na-na-na. And the next Sunday, boy, do those shoes have their say. Na-na-na-na-na-na. Na-na-na-na-na-na. Na-na-na-na-na. The only way for her to find release from the wicked shoes was by chopping off her feet. Geez, the stuff of fairy tales came with big warning signs and colors easy to recognize. Thankfully for me, it was only those black Bata shoes, and that navy blue knitted sweater look. So I didn't really learn to show off. Well, not until Mark invented Facebook. But That didn't stop men from taking a look, getting a feel, feeling what they took. And the confusing part is, they weren't the Baba Duk, Duk, Duk. They weren't cloaked in black. They weren't bad, evil men. They were princes, brothers, and friends that I just didn't want to offend. Though no one has tried chopping off my feet, I have suffered from that dainty disease that a princess must never displease. I have smiled my best smiles through gritted teeth and withstood chants from medieval internet memes most gracefully. And all the while, this listless heart just kept its beat. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Do you know the story of the princess and the pea? She couldn't sleep. Despite 100 feather mattresses, because underneath them all, there was a pea. I mean, really. An effing pea. That is some serious OCD. Nah, I wouldn't need a prince, I'd need therapy. And dear prince, by treating me too much like a princess, don't become that pea under my mattress. And honestly, if I was Snow White and I lived with 7 dwarfs and one of them was called Happy, I'm not sure I'd want a prince to come and rescue me. No, especially if the first thing that occurs to him when I'm choking on a piece of apple is to kiss me. Bada-boom, bada-boom, bada-boom. Is that the sound of my prince galloping, coming to my tower? Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. I'm Rapunzel, and I let down my hair. And it climbs up it. Ouch, 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 ouch. To come and rescue me. Dear prince, have you thought about a ladder and a pair of scissors? Or are you secretly happy to have me locked up here so you know where to find me? Ooh. No, but you know, I have also been worrying for you, dear prince. It cannot be easy to be Jack climbing a beanstalk and fighting giants, fee, fi, fo, fum, ba-dum, 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 or losing to midnight magic, looking for the fairy godmother and a glass slipper. Cindy, 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 Cindy. Or becoming a barbecued feast to some fire-spitting dragon. Or when you have finally reached the greatness that is expected of you, when you are the king of your castle, when you're at the top of your game, you're fitted into the emperor's new clothes, paraded around naked, and shamed for having those egos. Dear prince, it's confusing, I know. Be good. But fight. Be brave, but not too bright. Go where no man has gone before, but come back at night. Be a man. Be a gentleman. Open the door. Don't open the door. Be tough, but smile. Be tender, but virile. Be quiet when you cry, and don't complain if you die. Dear prince, you have been asked to save me. But who's going to save you? Do you think that we could try to rewrite our stories, you and I? If you listen to your princess, I must confess, I think about babies and telling them bedtime stories. And I imagine them listening wide-eyed while we tell them perhaps how a witch is a strong woman misunderstood by her society. How a prince can sometimes break down and cry. How a princess can chop off her hair and call it style. How sometimes people drink magic potions or take drugs in order to paint away the pain. How today's wizards are political thugs who stamp out our questions with their powerful staffs. And today's trolls, well, they're still trolls. We'll tell them fairy tales about heroes that nobody knows because they chose to remain equals. about villains that rose against nature, earning their proper name as villains and vultures in a food chain. About love not having happy endings, but being a series of undulating unendings. We'll tell them fairy tales about how sometimes people just fail. Dear Prince, someday you will die. Or I. Or mommy, or daddy, or somebody. And there is no spell to break, no magic words to say, no sword to take up in order to wake up a loved one lost, and we know it, and it makes us sad in a side-to-side swinging kind of way, but it's okay. Because you can huff, and you can puff, and you can blow my house down, and I will fill Wonderland with my tears. And you can march out with your lances and spears, and I will sleep 100 years. And you can have your nose grow and grow for all the lies that you told Pinocchio. And I will smash the mirror, mirror on the wall that calls me old. But through it all, ba-boom, 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 will rise and fall. Like the highs and lows of tides at sea, consistent in their ups and downs, and sometimes as lonely as can be. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Like the cycle of the moon, from total blackout to eclipses to shining bright and full. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Like the universe where the sun is not the center, the earth not the only planet. You and I have only ever lived in a tiny little room, and there's a knock at the door. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Dear Prince, can we find a way to untangle ourselves from these messy fantasies by listening to the steady beat of our heart machines? Woo, thank you so much.